Happy Sunday, fam. Live from 1028 between 11th and 10th Street here in the Ocean City Boardwalk Rant Booth. John Coyle, make sure I point the right way.
Yep.
Chrome. We're coming to you guys live. It's a beautiful day out, so we're live on scene here at All Campus. Make sure you guys come by if you're in the Ocean City area. You can come out and watch us do our show today. But hey, lots to talk about. And don't forget, guys, All Campus is giving 20% off of everything in our store, including hats, shirts, to all of the A2D subscribers. So make sure you guys get in there, subscribe. You just saw Nate Moss here over. He's giving picks over there if you're becoming an A2D subscriber. Lots of exclusives, opportunities to come on shows and different things. So make sure you guys do it. And again, come by here. Come see us here at the Ocean City Boardwalk here between 1028 between 10th and 11th. Come on, maybe you could take a seat. Maybe we can have a conversation. There's a lot to talk about.
Today.
A lot to talk about. We're going to be talking Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, the draft lottery.
Big day tomorrow for us. Ooh, yep.
Can't wait to get that number 2 pick behind the Chicago Blackhawks. We're going to talk all about all that, guys. Topic of conversation we're going to bring up here first. Our poll question is, James Harden is the biggest reason for the Sixers' failures in the playoffs. Agree, disagree. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you guys are checking us out. We appreciate you commenting. Looking forward to hearing you join the conversation. So, John.
Yeah.
What do you think, buddy?
I'll start it off.
Here?
Yeah.
Because I already know where this is going to start going.
Well, I think I'm going to shock you a little bit, though. I'm going to disagree to the poll.
Oh, well, I am shocked by that.
I do not think it's James Harden that is leading us to failure.
Okay.
I think it is management, our front office, and our fan base.
Ooh, okay.
I am going to bash our fan base a little bit here. All right? One reason, and one reason only. We know what James Harden is, and he's proven it to us once again. Everyone got sucked in by the 45-point game. He's the best. He's back. He's great. He's going to lead us to the championship. James Harden is what James Harden is. An absolute loser. An absolute bum when it comes to playoffs. We said it a little bit before the show. Hall of Famer, no doubt. The dude is a regular season Hall of Famer, a playoff loser. If you want to keep having playoff losers, sign James Harden up for another contract.
I mean, you could make the argument then that Joel Embiid is a playoff
loser.
Oh my God.
Joel Embiid is a complete loser in the playoffs.
Oh my God! All right, here we go.
You got prove me wrong. Show me where it's wrong.
I could prove you wrong, and quite easily actually, because if you look at how Game 2 and Game 3 went down, first of all, anyone who thinks that Game 1 was going to be a foreseeable, sustainable level of play is out of their mind. James Harden at 32 years old is not that player anymore, and that's fine. He doesn't need to be that player.
Never was.
Okay. Well, we could agree to disagree on that because I never felt like they put a real team. They put an offensive team that couldn't play any defense, and you have to play defense in the playoffs, which is why Houston never won.
Okay.
Mike D'Antoni is notoriously known as a head coach that cannot coach defense. It's all offense. It's run and gun.
Yeah.
He did it everywhere he played, and which is why every team he's had, including those Rockets teams, they were
a 1 seed every single year.
They were top scorers, but in the playoffs, you need to play defense, and you need to be able to adjust game by game. When you are a run and gun team, you cannot win in the playoffs. And that's honestly, that's the reason he never won in Houston. Okay. And unfortunately, that was his prime years, right?
Yeah.
The Sixers, I do disagree to the poll, and it's not because he's a loser.
All right.
It's because, first of all, Game 3 and 2 are two totally different out. First of all, you can't even discuss Game 2 because the clip that they were hitting 3-pointers at is it's just not sustainable. I can't sit there and say that when Boston's hitting like 38 of 50 3-pointers, you can't use that.
Right. Let me just
we weren't hitting them.
One thing. You're right. They can't sustain that at a 50% clip. It's just not sustainable. But there was a lot of wide open threes that they had.
Right.
They had a lot of wide open threes, which are a lot higher percentage of making.
Well,
an NBA player is going to hit those at 50%.
Well, first of all, I think that they should have probably sat Embiid an extra night.
Probably.
And I understand they brought him back. And I think that they brought him back a little bit early. I would have waited that extra game and gave him a little bit more time because they didn't look in sync at that point.
Right.
I'll say this: Paul Reed. Every time I see him on the court right now, he's crushing offensive.
He's grown, hasn't he?
Yeah,
like he's grown this year.
Yeah, and this is not a oh my god we can. That's where I'll get on the fan base for the fact that we're sitting here and I am hearing people repeatedly say online. And if you're one of those people, give me your fan card and get out. That Paul Reed, the team is better with Paul Reed at center than Joel
I do
Embiid.
not agree with that.
You're a moron.
I think Joel Embiid's a loser in the playoffs, but that's just an outrageous
not a loser
take.
in the playoff. There's always context to everything. Now, does he have an injury history? He does. And honestly,
makes him a loser.
I can't hold last year against him because that was on Doc. Doc left him in a game. They were up 30 points with like 4 minutes left, and he took a shot to the face.
Yeah,
and basically cracked his orbital bone.
Right.
And so I can't blame a guy. That's like blaming Carson Wentz for when Jadeveon Clowney took a cheap shot on him and knocked him out of the game. You can't blame him for that.
You can't blame him.
Other ones you can.
But it always seems to happen.
I know.
Right? It just
I know. I get it.
If you can't blame him, I don't know who else. Like, where do you go with the blame? Because someone's got to eat the blame.
Well, no. So, to me, listen, I think overall, outside of Game 2, Tobias Harris has played really well. Tyrese Maxey's not playing well right now. I'm trying to think. Like, P.J. Tucker.
Tucker's, okay.
You're not getting anything from the bench. That's one thing.
No.
In Game 1, DeAnthony Melton was the difference.
Correct.
And as good as Harden was at 45 points, if Joel's in the lineup and you combine Paul Reed and Harden's scoring,
right?
That's about what you would typically get in a night from Embiid and Harden together, right?
Correct.
So to me, that's a wash. The bench has been the difference here because their bench has absolutely destroyed the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean,
Brogdon is a Hall of Famer in this series.
Brogdon has looked like the greatest bench player that's ever played, like the greatest sixth man of all time.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, but looking at that in comparison, right? Like you can't. I get it, right? I don't need a lot from PJ Tucker. I've been very happy with what I got defensively, and he's been very selective with shooting.
Right.
But you also, you're good. How you doing? You cannot have George Niang not take a shot till the third or fourth quarter, which happened the other night, and that's it's egregious.
He's kind of our best 3-point shooter.
Off the bench, he's a scorer.
Yeah, I think he's got to get 7, 8 to 10 shots. Like he needs shots. And we saw it last night, right? I think he scored like 4 buckets in a row when he was in to try to make it a little bit of a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does need to get a little bit more touches.
Yeah, and I don't like. I think that's the difference, to be honest. It's been the bench production. Again, Game 2, the clip that Boston was hitting 3-pointer, it's just not the same. And it improved it the other night, right? In that game, they were hitting it from start to finish. They started Game 3 the same way.
Yeah.
But that fell off because the Sixers were getting their defensive rotations. And honestly, you can't shoot 60 or 70% from 3-point land every game.
Well, you know where it changed in the second half? When we went zone. Right. We went to a zone defense, and I think that changed up the way that they go and set up and get their shots. Hopefully that now sets them where they're not hot. So when we go back to man, it's going to be regular shooting for them at a 35% clip like normal.
I do think there's been a little bit of a difference too, right? I think Boston came out in Game 1 and said, all right, Joel's not here. Let's attack the basket. They weren't.
Right.
They were their rotations were much different in terms of not finding the open 3-point shots, right?
Yeah.
They make that alteration to their game plan, and everything's outside. Everything's at 20 feet or further now at this point.
Right.
But that's where I'm putting the blame on. Tyrese Maxey needs to show up tonight from start to finish. I can't get a first half Maxey or second half Maxey. He missed way too many layups the other night. and we were talking about this before we went on, right? I that's his game, right? I
It
can
is.
accept guys taking 3-pointers when they have a quality shot and missing, because sometimes it's just not your night. But as long as you're taking quality shots, I can accept that.
Correct.
I can't accept a guy who, and I love Max. This is not me pulling him on the carpet for anything, but in terms of what we need going forward, I cannot accept a guy who his game is predicated off of ball in hand, first step quickness, getting to the basket and missing layups.
Right.
And I mean, some of them weren't even contested, but he was going too strong off the backboard. It was bouncing in and out.
It looked like he was back to his rookie year, where he was just going full steam ahead. He didn't know how to slow up when he got to the basket to make sure he had the angle correct and all that stuff. He just looked like he was just going full steam ahead, throwing it high off the glass and not even touching rim. Like he was missing a lot of layups that we saw him throughout the year making.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's just it's a speed thing. It's an adjustment thing that I don't know why. He just felt like he just needed to go so fast yesterday.
I feel too like he's become a really good 3-point shooter. And Danny Green, I think, worked with him a lot when Danny Green was here. But what we're not seeing is I almost feel like he's passing up on some opportunities, and he's out of rhythm. He's not taking quality shots. And even when he drives, right, sometimes he'll have that little like kind of stop, turn around, drop, and do a little bit of fate, and it just hasn't looked good.
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is the whole team in general feels like they're just being real passive, right? James Harden, you see, like he just has become a little gun shy. PJ Tucker, before Game 3, was completely gun shy. I think he went like 3 games in a row without any shots, and he's wide open in the corner sometimes. He was just gun shy. I don't know what it was. I think Wilson said it in the live reaction Game 2.
Mm-hmm.
He chimed in and said, "Looks like Harding has the yips." Right? It just looks like he was shy going to the basket. He wouldn't pull that floater that he always does.
Well, I felt like that in Game 2. He was like
correct.
That. Last game he was going, he just wasn't going strong enough, and he was getting blocked a lot. And I will say this about James Harden: I really like the guy. I think the talent level is incredible. But I don't know that I've ever seen anybody outside of LeBron James complain more every play that they
every play.
It's egregious at this point.
It's him, Draymond, and LeBron.
And the thing with that, right? If you're doing it too much, you're gonna stop getting calls even when you're supposed to get a call.
Correct. When you cry wolf so many times, no one's gonna believe you when you really get hit.
It's brutal.
Here's the other thing that I'm just absolutely baffled by that is happening with the Sixers, and why I put a lot of the blame on management, ownership, and everything is how in the hell are you having Marcus Smart manning Joel Embiid and not taking advantage of this? I mean, you literally have a guy who's 6-7 inches smaller than Embiid, and we're not taking advantage of this somehow. Even when they double him, Joel should be able to see over him, make quality passes, but it just seems like it's not happening. Marcus Smart is locking down Joel Embiid at the top of the key, and it's absolutely mind-boggling to me.
I don't know.
It's locking them down.
It's not locking them down, because if you watch every play, they're playing like a double team zone, right? So it looks that way, but they have a defender that's basically behind him. So as soon as he gets that extra step, Joel's going to end up getting the double team anyway. They're double and triple.
They're double team him every time he touches the ball.
Why we need guys to start knocking down shots. And I'll say, I will be honest again, our most consistent player through this round
always
has been Tobias Harris.
He's the most consistent player in the NBA, I think. You could pencil that guy in for 15, 6, and 4 every game.
I don't know about the NBA. Marcus Smart's a pretty consistent player that we're going against.
Yeah.
He puts the same numbers up. If you want a safe bet, if you're a betting person, bet his props. Because you win almost every time when you bet his assists and scoring numbers. You win almost every time.
Tobias Harris has been our best player in these playoffs so far.
Most consistent, I would say.
I think he was MVP of Series 1.
I agree.
And I think he's, like you said, most consistent player for us now. I think he needs to take more shots. I think we need to have him punish who's ever guarding him. Put him down on the block. Let him take that 10-foot turnaround that he does. He needs to get 20 shots.
Yeah.
And I don't know who is in charge of organizing this, if it's Sam Cassell or if it's Doc.
Wait, you think that Tobias needs to get 20 shots?
I do.
No.
I do.
No.
He always has a mismatch.
Lot of shots, man. That's a lot of shots.
I get it. I hear you.
That's
you want James Harden getting 20?
I would rather James Harden shoot shots that he can normally make and miss than see him not and try to force Tobias Harris into getting 20 shots. That's what they did last year, and it didn't work. You got the worst versions of Tobias. What they got this year is Tobias is helping to stretch the defense out because he's finding the open spots and taking quality shots, which is why I feel like his level of production went up. But when he's now when they're trying to force the ball, first of all, if we're at a point where we're forcing the ball to Tobias Harris for 20 shots a game,
right,
it's over.
Do you not think it's over now?
I don't think that it's over now.
You're absolutely crazy.
I don't think that it's over
now. Absolutely nuts.
I don't, because, listen, again, they lost. The ways that they've lost have almost been self-inflicting. The defense wasn't great, and they were. I mean, they got 3 to death. There's just nothing there was nothing they could have did about that.
You play better defense. That's what you do about it.
No. They were getting shots with guys hanging all over them. It was one of those nights. Sometimes you chalk it up and say it's one of these nights that these dudes just can't miss anything.
Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Brown has just been lights out.
Jaylen Brown. I mean, you mentioned Malcolm Brogdon. Oh my God, game 2.
Yeah, but he's getting open looks. So they're open looks.
They weren't. Go back and watch that game, dude. They were getting some open looks because of their ball movement, but there was a lot of contested shots where it was just like it was one of those games where you watch and guys are getting in their face and I'm sorry, I'm putting my hand over in front of you.
You're good.
And their guys are getting in their face, and it was just nothing could miss. And it's one of those, and that's why I chalked that game up. You saw that the defense, they gave them a defensive matchup where game 3 started that way.
Right.
And towards the end of the second quarter and into the second half, up until the very end of the game, they really weren't hitting the 3-pointers at any point of that clip. But
I think that was because they went to a zone, though.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
They went to a zone defense, which is a lot easier to guard the threes because all you got to worry about is your zone. You ain't got to run around screens. You ain't got to chase guys, right? But is that sustainable? Can you really play Boston in a zone defense and win? Because we saw we can't do a man-to-man, right? Man-to-man, we're just subpar. There's nobody that can guard Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
And Tobias Harris has been getting toasted, who is our best defender, really. And he's just not looked good defensively.
Got a lot of comments coming in here. People agreeing with the poll. Martian saying, game 3, our bench gave us 27 points. Our guard play, and that's true. The guard play has been terrible off the bench.
Yeah.
And I mean, really starting too.
And I think I said it before game 1. The person that I'm looking for to really spark Milton. Where is Shake? I want to see him get a chance because he's a guy where I think if he gets it going, he can get it going. Right? Milton's not like that. Milton, is not like that.
That's not true. He showed in game 1 when he could get rolling. That's not true.
I don't think that's sustainable for him. I think Shake is a guy who we've seen in the past, especially in the playoffs, who could get going.
No, Shake is a guy who gets a lot of cleanup points and garbage time points.
Not in years past.
Shake has had games where he's the best player on the court.
Right.
But we're talking like 1 or 2 a year. This is not a consistent thing with this guy. He can't even crack the lineup, and he can't even stay healthy.
I'm with you. Like, it's not a consistent thing. But we're looking to steal games now.
It's clear. No, I'm not looking to steal games. I'm looking to get myself back into this series, and they can do that. You got to remember, look at the way that these two teams played each other throughout the season, right?
Yeah.
They were all tough, all tight games. They were all tight games. They were defensive games. I mean, We won what? We won one. We went 1-3, and we were a quarter of a second away from going 2-2 and splitting.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that you can't just have Joel Embiid be everything, and that's kind of what we saw in Game 3. Tobias did his job, but you need more people to step up. You need the bench, and I did see the bench had 27 points. That's fine, but
there's a
when Boston's bench is scoring, 35 and 40 points, you have to go toe to toe with them. And part of that too, they had 27 points, but a lot of like the bench points in this series for our team has come in garbage time at the end of the 100%.
Game. That's where it's been because all these games have kind of been blowouts.
Yeah, you're right.
When you say Joel Embiid can't be the only guy, like he's our star, the offense needs to run through him.
Right, but he can't be the only guy.
He's not making good decisions right now.
Oh, I disagree. I thought
he's not making good
pretty
decisions
good the other day.
I would love to see what was his turnover stats. Like
the other night?
Yeah. I just feel like he's
got this thing called the Google machine.
Not making good decisions because he's getting double teamed all the time. And yeah, we're not hitting shots. No one's really hitting consistent shots. But that needs to come through Joel. He needs to find people that are going to be in a good position to make the shots. I don't think he's ever done that. In playoff time, Joel Embiid has never been a guy that we can run the offense through. He just hasn't.
What? Oh my God, you're driving me crazy.
The Atlanta series, game 7, I think he had like 7 turnovers in the fourth quarter. He always collapses in big moments. He just does. Regular season, he's awesome. Playoffs, he is not good. It's a different animal.
What?
There's only one sport where regular season and playoffs are completely different, and it's the NBA. James Harden and Joel Embiid have been losers in the playoffs.
That's not accurate because you could watch the NHL is a sport where there's a whole difference between playoff NHL and regular season. Hold on. So you said you want to know how many
superstars though.
Oh sure. You want to see what his turnover numbers were last game, right?
Yeah.
3.
3 last night or 3 in game 3?
Yes.
It's not horrible. I would love to see where they were when they were. But I don't know. I'm just looking over history, and Joel Embiid has always failed come crunch time in big moments.
Joel Embiid's playoff averages over his career. Let's see.
Go for it.
He averages 23.5 points. Now, mind you, some of these are younger years where he wasn't.
Here comes all the excuses for
excuses. It. 23.5.
Okay.
1.7 blocks.
Okay.
11 rebounds a game.
He's always been great defensively.
24, 11.
And what's the turnovers?
And 2.
What's the turnovers?
3.5. 3.7. Close to 4. If you round up. I'm not a rounder up.
What his regular season compared to his playoffs are drastically different. Drastically different.
I think that the points per game is only 4. It's 3.5 points more. Everything else is the same across the board. So his points per game is 4 points less per game. Literally, the blocks are the exact same thing. The rebounds are just about the same thing. 11 and 1.5.
Please, someone in the chat, tell me, is Joel Embiid a fourth quarter playoff winner? I want people to really debate me on this because he's not. He's never won a fourth quarter close game.
Who was the guy last year in Toronto when the crowd was chanting "F-U, Philly" that hit an overtime fadeaway 3-pointer to win the game? Who hit that?
That was Joel.
Okay, well, we just ended that conversation.
You
just said name one time, and I gave it to you immediately.
One shot.
I had the bullet in the chamber for that one.
And did we not lose? We didn't win.
We beat Toronto.
We beat Toronto in the first round. Okay.
But you asked. You asked
First
when
round.
in the playoffs did this happen?
Get me past the second round. If you're a generational talent, get me past the second round. We have 2 of them on this team, and we can't do it. That's unacceptable. That's a loser. That's a loser mentality.
John, I think you're out of your mind.
Keep calling me out of my mind, but you can keep losing. You can keep losing.
I think that you're living in the moment right now.
I'm living in the past 4 years.
No, I think you're living in the moment right now of frustration, and I get it because what we have seen, but that's not on Joel Embiid, man. Particularly that last game, he's the reason why they were in that game. Him and Tobias Harris, the rest of the team, and some of the bench started scoring. I mean, you had PJ Tucker, man. He looked good.
He looked good. He had
threes.
3.
Give me more of those.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yep, game 3 in Toronto, and it was OT. So that's other people are throwing the same one.
Yeah, you find the one. Find the one that the loser has lost every other one.
Joel made a pass to Mike Scott for a win in game 3. He did do that. That's John. Lakers all day and all night. Lakers in 6. I mean, we're not going to argue with you here, Turbo Duran.
I took the Lakers to win it all.
To win the whole thing. I don't know if they're going to win the whole thing, but I think Denver
looks good.
Really, really good.
Denver looks good.
I didn't think in the playoff, because you talk about another guy, right?
Yeah.
You could say what you want about Joel Embiid, but what has Denver done?
Nothing.
With a 2-time MVP.
You're 100% correct. And how many people bash them nationally? Mm-hmm. Everyone does.
They look good.
Nobody picked them to come out of the West. The West is stacked this year. Nobody picked them.
Yeah, the harder road to get to the finals. It seemed like it was going through the West, but
correct.
The East is looking pretty tough right now too. Elite guards better than today's centers. Brian Wilson, what's up, guys? What's up, Wills? Make sure you check him out on Sundays. Agree to disagree here on A2D Radio. James Harden should go back to Vegas. He should. Let's send him to Vegas.
Oh. I said the same thing too.
Send him to Vegas. Let's go, baby.
And the guy needs a private jet.
Chucks is popping in. Yo, gentlemen. Tobias finished with 7 points in game 3, but okay. His scoring output wasn't as big, but if you looked at what he did on the defensive side of the basketball, again, he showed up. There's games where over in the past couple of years, you got Tobias Harris was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
But you're getting a lot more. And listen, if his scoring production, but he's still giving me the defense, is down 1 game, that's fine. But if you look at what he's done since the playoffs started this year, he's been the most consistent player on the basketball team.
He has, easily.
You can't knock that.
No, he's been the most consistent player for these playoffs.
Oh, Chuck says I agree to the poll. He's been atrocious the last 2 games.
He's been atrocious the last 10 years of his career in the playoffs.
Turbo wants to know, do you guys think the Suns will beat the Nuggets again today? I think so. I don't. I think that Denver wins this in 6.
I'm with you.
Phoenix just is not deep enough.
No, they're not deep. And Booker is the only reason that they're alive. That guy has just been phenomenal in this playoffs.
Yeah, you talk about a guy that had a rough start to his playoffs.
Yeah.
Once the light bulb went on, I think it was game 3 of the first round.
Yeah. Where he went off for 50.
Yeah. He's just been dropping 32, 35, 38 every night.
Yeah, he's been on fire, and he's really carrying that team. And that's a lot to say when you have arguably the best offensive player to ever play this game in KD on the team.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this, right? I say all the time, I think just drop 4 guys around KD, and you know that's probably a playoff team.
You're a winning team. Yep.
This guy's unbelievable the way he can just.
And they're doing it without their leader, right? CP3's out. Yeah. You know, I thought that would be the end of them, but Booker put it on his shoulders.
Martian says, to be fair, only one team wins it all, so technically everyone is a playoff loser. As great as Jimmy has been with Miami, doesn't hang banners for making it to the finals. That's true.
I'm with you. Listen, I am 100% with you. Only one team could be a winner. It's just when you come into the year and we're a top 3 seed year after year after year, and it's this fan base. This is our year. This is our year. This is the year. And then we can't even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. At some point, you got to the blame's got to fall on your stars.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to look at reality and say, maybe these guys just aren't winners. And that's it's not a knock. Joel Embiid is the MVP. He is a hell of a player. It's just when it comes down to crunch time and he gets double teamed, he looks flustered. He looks like he doesn't know what to do. It just, especially in the fourth quarter when the sun is hot on him, he does not perform. It's just what it is, guys. And James Harden, we've had a decade of history going back on that.
Joel doesn't perform,
right?
But he only averages 4 less points in the playoffs than he does, and everything else is the same. I'm
Fourth
just saying,
quarter, Joel Embiid shrinks.
Stop it!
He
stop
shrinks.
It. You're ridiculous. We're never gonna see eye on this. Martian says, "I hope the Nuggets lose out. Their fans will be unbearable if they win it this year."
Yeah, true.
I mean, I don't know where you're from, Martian. I don't have many Nuggets fans around here, but I do hear it's an interesting crowd out there.
We had a couple Nuggets fans actually come in and buy hats yesterday, and they are a little obnoxious when it comes to that team.
Oh yeah. Don't forget about Durant. Nobody forgot about Durant, brother. Oh, Grant Williams.
Grant Williams has been hot, yeah.
Ridiculous.
And he's another one that's guarding Joel. Like, how are you letting a guy who's, 6'7", 6'6"?
Yeah.
Just, I don't get it.
So, John,
I don't get it.
John Consiglione, good to see you, buddy. He says, all I was saying with Tobias, if Maxey and Harden are struggling, Tobias needs to be more aggressive offensively.
That's where I'm at with it.
That's fine. I think what we were debating earlier was, does Tobias Harris need to have an expected 20 shots a game? No, absolutely not. You're done if he's taking 20 shots a game. And I'm not at this point, I'm not throwing stuff at the wall,
right,
trying to make it stick. I'm going to tweak what has made us successful until I figure out what the right chemistry is. And
but I think that's where we differ, right?
Sure.
Is you're tweaking something that has never been successful. It has never worked in the playoffs.
It's a season-to-season thing, man. It doesn't matter. That you can't sit there and say, oh, it didn't work the last 2, 3, 4 years. It doesn't matter. It's a season-to-season different thing. The Phillies stink all the time, right? But last year they found it was their
They got
year.
hot. They got hot at the right time.
Right.
That's it.
And right now, Boston, who's been atrocious for the last stretch of the season, almost fell out of the 2 spot,
right,
the 2 seed.
Yeah.
And struggled against Atlanta in the first series.
There's a difference.
They hit a stride and have found a thing. But now we have to figure out what is going to counteract that and be our stride here.
You want to know why Boston's so much better? And the Sixers, why it's hard to win with a superstar as a big, is because Boston has 2 guys in Brown and Tatum that can take the ball off the glass and not pass it and make it happen.
I'm gonna say this, all right? Because I'm gonna argue your point about Joel being a playoff loser. Okay.
Yeah.
Tatum, Brown.
Yep.
Choked the series away last year, being up 3-1.
Correct.
Have been to conference finals repeatedly.
Right.
And they can't get it done. And that there has been often that those teams have gone in as the favorites in series. So if we're going to sit there and say, because they haven't won the chip and they haven't done this, that team, which is why part of the reason why they're talking about Jaylen Brown leaving that team,
yeah,
not breaking it up, but retooling what that team's identity is going to be.
Right.
And part of it is, and somebody mentioned it, right? Only one person can win at the end of the year. It doesn't work for them. So are they labeled now forever as playoff losers?
Like, but haven't they gotten to the championship? Haven't they gotten to the Eastern Conference Championship?
They've gotten there and they've choked it away. They had a 3-1 lead in the finals and lost it.
Are you
3-1 lead.
Are you happy this year if the Sixers get to the Eastern Conference Championship?
Yeah.
Because I am. Yes.
Yeah.
If we get there, somehow, some way we get by Boston, I'm eating crow for all this. And gladly, I would love that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
But when you go now 5 years in a row where you arguably have the best player in the world and then another top 75 player and you can't get there, how much more do you need? How much more proof do you need until you say, maybe it's a loser mentality here?
It's not a loser mentality. Stop it. Turbo, as a Lakers fan, I want the Nuggets or Suns in the conference finals. Martian, appreciate all the comments, guys, by the way. Make sure you join us Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. If you're out here, you're down here in Ocean City, New Jersey, come on by. Come say hi. You can chop in one of our seats. You can get a talk for a couple minutes with
Love
us,
that.
whether it's Sixers, Phillies. The Eagles aren't on tap, but we can talk Eagles if you want. Whatever you guys want to come in and talk about it. We'll talk Villanova basketball in May if that's what you really want to talk
Let's
about.
do it.
But it's a beautiful day. Come by and see us. 1028 between 10th and 11th Street here on the Ocean City Boardwalk. All campus. Come and check it out. And they got the custom hats here, too, by the way. If you guys haven't seen these, the Ocean
Running
City
out of a
Boardwalk
lot of
hats.
sizes, guys. So if you wanted to get one, you better get one soon.
These Ocean City Boardwalk hats are the ish over here. So make sure you guys come by, check them out. But yeah, we need more production from guys outside of Joel Embiid. Paul Reed's been great. I'll say that.
Wow.
But he's obviously playing. It's not the ironic thing though, right? Isn't it ironic that every year when we play, right, and when we're in the playoffs, the team's not deep enough,
right?
And then you never really had like a guy who could be a legitimate backup center, and Paul Reed was a part of this equation for the last year or two, to where someone who can legitimately come back and not have their plus minus go absolutely bottoming out when he's out.
Yeah.
Paul Reed's been great this playoffs. I mean, he's putting up double doubles.
You talk about
keeping the fouls down.
You talk about Tobias Harris getting 20 shots. That's a loser. You saying that to me?
No. No, what I'm saying with that is the irony of how many years, because we didn't have a backup center, did it go where the Sixers are like playing at a level, and then
we
Boston,
take them. Yeah,
2 or 3 years ago.
You're right.
Go against Boston
when
as
Joel
soon as
Embiid
Joel's
comes out,
and you're putting in the Amir Johnsons and the Amir Johnsons.
Drummonds, yeah,
and the
Andre.
Well, no,
Drummond wasn't horrible.
Drummond wasn't here in the playoffs. I wish we had him for the playoff run. When you're putting in the Amir Johnsons and you're putting in the Dwight Howard's well past his prime, and all these guys that they've had that have been just kind of either past their prime or just not very much as far as a backup center.
Yeah.
You finally have a guy that's like coming in and getting those productive moments, and it's just not the right season, it seems.
I'm with you. I hear you. And we do have Paul Reed, who has been great. I just find that very funny that that's what we're relying on.
Yeah, I don't know if we're relying on that. But I will say this. If I hear anybody else, again, and I repeated this earlier, and I will say it again.
Yeah.
If I get anybody else who sits here and tells me that this team is better without Joel Embiid, you're an idiot.
That's retarded. I'm not. That's just a stupid comment. Anyone who believes that is just way off base with what this team is.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is the focal point. I'm just debating that Joel Embiid needs to be better. And that's it. I just think he needs to be better. And he's not.
I think he would be better if he was getting better production around him, too. Because they're able to double and triple team him because nobody's knocking shots. The whole thing about the Sixers is spacing the floor, right? So what you're not seeing right now is that spacing, which is why they're able to. This is like the old Boston series a couple of years ago where they didn't have the shooting to be able to space the floor properly, right?
Right.
So every single time the ball went into Joel, he was double teamed right at the top of the key.
Yeah.
And then once he would get so far down, then he would throw a triple team.
Right.
And no matter who he kicked it out to, they were not making any shots. And this team is the best 3-point team statistically
that they had
throughout the season this year. For the Sixers are the number one 3-point team. They're not making shots. They're missing open shots with high percentage opportunities too. And because of that, Boston is able to double down and triple down on Joel up high at the top of the key.
You want to know what's funny?
That base down low, yeah.
You know what that's called? A losing mentality.
That's not a losing.
It's a lose. You do it in the regular season, but you can't do it when it's crunch time. Ridiculous. What are you?
That doesn't mean
what are you?
Joel's not a loser.
He is in the playoffs.
You're out of your goddamn mind.
He is in the playoffs.
We go. Trade him. Stop it.
I'm not for that. I'm not saying that.
Somebody says, how about Melton and a Maxey backcourt start game? Joseph.
I'm not.
This is like the crazy stuff. I love you, brother, but that's the kind of crazy ideas. No, you cannot Bring James Harden off.
I feel like I'm like real negative, but you guys are taking it to a whole nother level here today.
I have, because there is zero reason the Sixers should ever lose a 7-game series to New York or Miami. Jesse Ramon Nichols says, can't run the offense through Joel and win a championship. He's not a good enough playmaker.
Thank you.
Teams are not going to let him dominate in the paint.
There it is. There it is. And you know as hell you can't run through James Harden because he's a loser too. He's a loser.
Colin says Sixers a +2, a lock. About to put my bet in. Let me know your thoughts.
What do you say? I'm sorry.
How do you feel about the Sixers at +2? I don't.
I'm taking Boston all day long.
I mean, I'm not confident enough to tell you it's a lock. Do I think that they could win this game outright and maybe? I want to say like fairly. I don't even know what fairly comfortable would be on a +2.
Here it is. If it's a close game in the fourth quarter, who's taking our shot?
The fact that I have a lot.
Who's taking our shot?
The fact, I guess James Harden. Harden. So
good luck. You lose. We've seen that show before.
Yeah, we saw game 1. How'd that go?
They keep getting the fish hook in your mouth.
Who hit that shot in game 1 to win that game?
Keep getting the fish hook in your mouth.
It's fair. It's a fair point. I'm just saying. Kyle, I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't tell you a lock. If you're gonna consider a lock, then I'd say you have to go with Boston. I hate to say it, but I wouldn't bet the lines on this. I would bet props. Sixers have a better chance of winning the series without Embiid because they'll play stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Stop it. I couldn't even finish reading that. I appreciate.
I just don't understand what's the mentality. What's the thought process to that?
But come on, man.
What is the thought process to someone saying that and believing that?
Team is not better, but the offense is too slow and predictable with Joel. Oh my God!
Here it comes.
Don, please save me, Don. From some of these crazy comments. I love you. Keep them coming. I mean, I love you, but we're getting the team is better with Joel. People are coming.
It's horrible.
I didn't think it was going to happen on the air. It's
of
rough.
Course it does.
Martian says, I just want to get to these conference finals. I'm not even talking about winning it all. Of course,
that's all we want.
That's a progressive step. Sixers' current configuration is a lot worse without Embiid. However, a 29-year-old center in a guard-driven league doesn't win championships. May have to consider changing the team's identity, ending this process era for good, and getting a haul for Embiid while he still has worth. No.
Here it comes, guys. Let's not trade Embiid. Let's not get rid of Embiid. Maybe let's just go out and get a real guard other than James Harden. Let's go out and get Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, a real player.
I would love to get Jaylen Brown, but
let's go out and get a real player.
I don't know that Jaylen Brown would end up here. I mean,
we've been saying it for years, right? Isn't there a guy in Portland that we want?
I know there's an injury history, but I would still roll the dice all day, and I would trade Maxey to get him.
So would I.
I don't think there is a better player that you can find in the NBA that could be the most ideal player to play with Joel Embiid, even over what Jimmy was.
Yep.
Than Damian Lillard. And
I'm with you.
I think you're an instant title contender. I don't care who you put around those two guys. You're an instant title contender if you can somehow go and get Damian Lillard.
The one thing that this team has been missing, and it's not Joel being great, it's because he's being forced to be in a situation that he cannot succeed in. We need a guy in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's a better point than what you were saying earlier. That's a way better point. If you're going to articulate it that way,
I've always said that.
That's not how you were just putting it, though. You were calling him a loser.
Because he is a loser. He has never succeeded.
No, that doesn't make him a playoff loser. What it means is the organization is not putting him in a position to succeed.
Who was my first knock? The management and organization.
I understand. But you can't call the player a loser when he's still producing. Now, again, in a 7-game series, a team has to be built differently. Has this organization built a team around him that in a 7-game series they can sustain that level to make a deep run?
You've never gotten a guy in playoff time when it's crunch time that you feel confident with. If anyone says you feel confident with Joel Embiid at crunch time, you're crazy.
I'm crazy then.
You're crazy because he will not succeed.
I'm crazy.
If you think James Harden is going to be the guy because game 1 he went off, you're nuts because 10 years he's never won. He's a loser. Playoff James is a loser.
That is such a lazy narrative
What's
on
up,
everything
guys?
Without any context. Hey, guys. And by the way, guys, come out and come see us. I told you already. 1028 out here between 10 and 11th Street, Ocean City Boardwalk. We got people coming by, waving, saying hi, watching us. Lots of fun. We appreciate you and your comments as well. But you're crazy. You're out of your damn mind. All right. Thanks for the input. I think I'll stay away. Yeah. Do the props. Bet the prop. I told you.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart props are always good winners.
Yeah.
We have to come out hot. Playing from behind is killing us. So my one thing with that, I could kind of agree. Just if you want to set a tone, I don't get concerned when the team goes down 10, 11, 12 points early.
Right.
Because this whole season, that's been literally all year, that's been their MO is their second half team. The other thing is the NBA is a game of runs.
It is.
Like a team can be down 20 points halfway through the second or third quarter and make it up in like 6 minutes of game time.
Correct.
So
you're never out of it.
until you're in the fourth quarter. And like I always say, like for me, what I would have did, I would have pulled Joel in game 2.
Right.
I would have started the quarter with every other starter and Paul Reed, and I would have given him 4 minutes. I think by 8 minutes, if you're down and it's obviously egregious, that's when you start pulling
wrap
guys.
it up. Yeah.
I don't like that they kind of threw up the white flag immediately at the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was like the 10 minutes left in the fourth where we sat at.
They're like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea because, again, in the NBA, particularly 8.5, 9.5, 10 minutes of play is a lot of time.
Yes, it is.
You can make up 25-point depth. I've seen it.
Yeah. I've seen it against us a couple times.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
The Clippers, when Pat Bev was on that team.
Yeah. The Hawks.
I threw a start of the fourth quarter effort bet when they were down like 20-something points.
Right.
They went off in the fourth quarter. I put literally like a $15 bet down, and I won almost $800
right.
on an effort bet because the NBA is just one of those things. You know what I mean? And so I agree, John, in that if you're looking to just set a tone and just say this game's not going to be how it was last game, John.
Yeah.
I see your point. I don't feel like playing from behind is killing us, though. I just don't think they're making shots.
No, and almost it's crazy. I would almost rather play from behind just because we're such a weak fourth quarter team. It just feels like they have something to play for. When we have a lead in the fourth quarter, I just feel like we never win those games.
Yeah.
We just somehow we find a way to lose in the last 3 minutes.
Colin says if we get to these conference finals, there's no way we don't make it to the finals, this Eastern Conference Finals, this series right here.
New York's tough.
I'm going to say this.
If somehow they win.
I'm going to say this. I think it's egregious that the NBA does not do reseeding.
I agree with you.
That what to me, they're preaching and trying to put into place the importance of the regular season and why why is the number 3 seed and 2 seed punished for and giving a harder road to go against the two top teams left basically when what's it 6 and 7 one of them is going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and it should not be that way.
So it's even more to me that don't you want the Eastern Conference Finals to be your big reveal going into the finals? You want your best teams going into the finals. So the reseeding would have been so much better, at least this year, definitely, where you could set up to have Boston, Philly as your Eastern Conference Finals. That would have been
amazing.
That would have been ideal, not just for us, but for the NBA in general. You want your big markets and your best teams in the finals of your conferences and in the finals of the finals championships. If you have LA going up against New York, man, I know they're two huge markets, but I'm probably not going to watch much of it. I'm not going to want to watch that.
So, like, I would watch it, but again, it's like, and I've heard this conversation had a couple of times, and it's because of television, which to me is nonsense because you can figure it out.
Yeah,
at the
with
end of the day,
stadiums and everything.
To me, you are punishing teams for the failures of others. There's no way. If you're putting an emphasis on the regular season and seeding,
and
the number 1 team loses, that's on them. Then the 2 and 3 worked their backsides off to get to that point to where they should benefit from it. And the not reseed is ridiculous. And you're right, John. At the end of the day, when we're talking about conference finals and championship games, you want your 2 best teams in 2 of your biggest markets.
Right.
Like the Sixers and the Celtics have played the most playoff games in NBA history against each other.
Correct.
Why would you not want to have a chance to have that on one of the biggest stages?
You would have 4 superstars in Joel Harden, Tatum, Brown playing. You would have the defensive player in your Marcus Smart. You have all that stuff. New York, I mean, who are they marking? Jalen Brunson?
Oh,
Brunson's
a star.
I get that, but is he a top 10 player in this league?
Oh, no.
No. He's not even a top 20 player.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, are we really hyped about watching him?
I might put Brunson in top 20.
I mean, besides Jimmy Butler, there's really no star.
Side note, did you guys catch that, by the way? I don't know if you did. What did you call James Harden? I reacted immediately.
A superstar? Yeah.
I went, what?
What? Why isn't he?
Didn't you say earlier he's not a superstar?
No, he's a superstar.
I could have swore, and maybe I'm wrong. Comment if I'm wrong. Let me know, Fat. You said earlier he is not a superstar, and we had a whole argument.
Jimmy Butler?
No, James Harden.
Oh, James Harden. He's a regular season superstar.
Oh, here we go. No,
he's a regular season superstar.
So then what does it matter if he's featured in the NBA Finals then?
Still a name. He's a top 75 player when it's all said and done. He's just a loser in the playoffs.
Jesse says, hopefully Portland will take Tobias and Maxey for Dame. I mean, I would do that.
That's the trade, right? That's what you hope we can get done.
I do think Tobias gets moved because his contract and the level that he's playing at this point, his contract is going to be desirable as an expiring contract.
And here's the thing, guys. We don't really have to trade Tobias, right? Because we're losing James.
Yeah.
So we can still get another max contract without trading Tobias next year.
Joseph, stay tuned. We're gonna discuss. We have very interesting opinions on it. We're going to discuss that shortly. I'm going to run through these comments, and then we'll move on to some quick Phillies talk here. Lillard's about to be 33. Why would you trade 2 pieces for 33-year-old? Joseph.
Your win now.
First of all, yeah, your window. Because right now, if you don't win now in the next 2 or 3 years, your window with your center,
you're in trouble.
They break down a lot faster, brother. Yeah. They're not going to be LeBron James where they're playing until they're 38 years old.
Yeah.
Your prime to win right now is with Joel Embiid. And I love Tyrese Maxey. He is not a franchise player. He's a 2 or a 3.
Yep.
But he is not a franchise guy. So when you lose that prime time of Joel's career, you're essentially running it back now. You're basically rewriting the identity of the team.
And you're going to be, and I hate saying this, but you're going to be stuck because you're not trading Joel Embiid. Anyone who thinks that, stop. No. You're not trading Joel Embiid, but he's just going to start becoming a shell of what this MVP season is. It's just what happens when guys get older, especially 7-footers.
Yeah, your window is about maybe 3 or 4 more years with Joel. And after this season, Tobias Harris is not going to be here.
Yeah.
So saying trading 2 pieces for a 33-year-old, Tobias Harris is an expiring contract. They're going to need to open that up.
They're going to want
that. We're going to have to retool this team. And to get a guy the level of Damian Lillard, who is a top 5 player when healthy in this league right now.
How would you feel about Beal also? I would take that also.
I'm not a Bradley Beal guy personally. I think he's a gaudy number guy
Okay.
I like him. I just don't look at him as a solution of, if we put him next to Joel, that makes us an instance. I'd rather have Harden, to be honest with you, than him.
Oh, that's
the injury history alone speaks to
that's true. I would be afraid of that. Excuse me.
And you're right, Jesse. It's part of that moving Tobias with Maxey is you got to make the money work. All right, so they're just kind of going back on that. Go Sixers, let's go. Make sure you guys come by. Come see us here. Come in. You can even hop down in one of our seats here and put a headset on if you want. Blue City Empire Sports says Sixers, Knicks in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. I like the confidence.
I love it.
Let's see what happens after today. Fellas, where does Miami find these NBA 2K created players like Max Struss, Caleb Martin, and Gabe Vince. I know.
I believe they have like 9 undrafted players on that team, and it's wow.
I know, it's crazy. J-Man still thinks Sixers in 7. Why does nobody have faith in this team? I'm not like overly. I'm not jumping off the ledge either with you, J-Man. I'm with you. I mean, there's years where I said, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the real team that we have here. I don't think we're not at a point where it's impossible for us to turn around. I believe if this team plays to their potential,
right,
they are better than the Boston Celtics because
You're
they are
crazy in saying that.
No, I'm not crazy.
You're crazy in saying that.
Boston has not been.
This is our Game 7 championship, though, right? Today, you have to win today. If you lose today, it's over, right? We're not taking 2 in Boston.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Yeah. So this is it.
I never say it's just because I've seen so many crazy things happen in the NBA playoffs. I don't care who you are or who you're playing. I never say it's over. Like last year, I don't care what Golden State's history is.
Right.
There was no reason for them to come back and beat Boston, and Boston absolutely choke jobbed that.
They did.
You never know what can happen. And we're going against a team who's not as good defensively because their head coach doesn't have the experience and doesn't have the defensive prowess that Ime Udoka had.
Well, you're right, but he's doing a pretty damn good job when you put a 6'6" guy on Joel, and he's not doing much.
No.
He's not doing much.
No. Had a great game last game. Had a great game.
Had a great losing game.
Had a great game. He's the reason that you were in that game.
You were never in it, though.
That's not. They weren't in the last game.
Oh, in the third quarter, maybe. In the fourth quarter, were we in it?
John.
What was the closest we got in the fourth quarter? 7 points, maybe?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Let's see here. Shy from the Thunder would be perfect. Oh, I love Shea.
I would love
Shea
that.
Gilchrist,
yeah.
He's amazing. I said,
and he might be a piece that they kind of think about moving, maybe, because they have all these young number 1 overall picks that they have to sign at some point. Maybe he gets moved.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
Let's see these last comments. All right. Miami is playing better than they're actually the leader.
What was that?
Player leadership is underrated. I'm laughing at Don Don's comment. I'll put it up in a minute. He's giving bench players confidence they can beat anyone.
Who are we talking about, Jimmy?
Jimmy Butler is a playoff loser, too.
Yeah.
We're going by John's standards. Jimmy Butler is definitely a playoff loser.
He's a playoff loser.
Bro, he was phenomenal in that first series.
He was phenomenal. I'd not say that.
From John going back and forth is great. Yeah, this has been the whole show. From literally jump where he started talking, I was like, oh, here we go. We're starting already. Let's get
losers.
I'm not ending it on that. They're going to win tonight.
No.
All right, so let's give our predictions on today, and then we'll move on to some Phillies talk.
You got it.
What's happening today? Give me your
simple and easy.
Give me your key to the game for them to win.
Okay.
And then I only want one key. Give me one main key that you think has to change for them to win this game today, and then we'll just say, do you think they're going to cover or not? We'll do
that. The only key, I think, for them to win is James Harden needs to get 22. James Harden needs to get 22 and still have his 10 assists. He needs to be the regular season James Harden that we had all year. All right? Do they cover? No chance in hell.
I'm just trying to pull up the line real quick and see if it's changed at all.
No chance in hell. They lose by double digits.
So they're still a 2-point dog.
They lose by double digits, I think, today.
You know what?
Here we go. Let's get the rah-rah. Let's get the pom-poms out.
Joel Embiid exploding today, 30-plus points, 12-plus rebounds, another 5-6 blocker type of day. James Harden, 26 points.
Stop.
8-plus rebound or 8-plus assists.
Stop.
Tobias Harris. He's gonna be the difference today.
Here we go.
Tobias Harris is gonna shoot 65% from the field. He's going to put up a 23 burger.
He's got the pom-pom beanie on today. He's got them all
and
rocking
Paul
and rolling.
Reed off the bench is going to have a double-double.
Let's get Korkmaz in there. How many's Korkmaz dropping tonight?
And
let's go.
Furkan never suits up again in the Sixers uniform.
Jeez.
I'll be even happier than if we win this game. I'll tell you
Everyone's having a great game today. We're just giving it out to everyone. Everyone plays.
Hey, even Montrez might get a few minutes.
Let's go.
They're going to blow him out by 28 points today. I'm putting it out there. And you know why I say that? I say that because you have to speak it into existence. You have to speak
You better
these
put
things
something
into
out in the
existence.
universe today because you're going to need it.
Sixers don't just cover. They blow the roof off of that number.
Let's go.
Sixers by a landslide.
I'll be cheering. Don't get me wrong. I'll be cheering.
We're heading back to Boston 2-2.
Huh?
Reality, I really do think the Sixers will win. I think they'll cover. I think they win this game somewhere around the 7 to 9 point. I don't think they win by double digits.
Okay.
But I think they win today.
All right.
And I do believe in that Joel line I put out there.
I hope so.
I think you'll get your 20 plus. I think you'll get one of those Harden games, 20 plus.
On what? 25 shots?
No, I don't think he's going to shoot that much. I think he's going to probably hit the 3-pointer at a better clip this time around.
All right.
Maybe get to the free throw line a little bit, but I think you'll get a double out of Harden, maybe 20 and 10 or 11 assists.
Right.
And I think you'll get the 15 to 20 from Tobias. And Tobias, man,
you always do.
I'll tell you another good prop. Always want to bet. I feel like is really, really good. Tobias, I feel like he way more often than not, always a -1.5 on the 3-point line.
Oh yeah.
When I do bet,
I like that
props. I always bet that line.
I do like that.
I do him. I do Harden's assists, and I do Joel's points.
Yeah.
And I do alt points for Maxey. I usually do like 14, 15. And normally he eclipses that.
Right.
That's just kind of my Sixers prop bets. But other ones, J-Man, 135.96 Sixers. I like where your head's at. Let's go. Just putting teams in the final, these kind of shouldn't be there. Loser.
Who?
Not us. I think somebody.
Not us.
We'll know what somebody putting somebody's Eastern Conference thing. We'll know what type of Harden we have after the first 3. I give him 5 shots. Because the thing with Harden, and after this, we're going to move on to Phillies.
Yep.
The one thing about him that I think we saw a lot this season, John, is he tends to have some of those games where it's a rough first half.
Right.
And he puts up like a 6, 7, 8-point burger, and you're like, oh, my God.
It's going to be a long night.
No, and then the fourth quarter hits, and he puts up like 15 points in the fourth, and it makes his stat line look amazing. It happened a lot this season. So I don't get crazy about that. I'm looking more of the first 5 quality shot attempts. Not that he makes them, but what kind of scoring opportunities he's getting. Is he hitting that 3? Is he taking that step back 3? Is he
needs that floater to work.
Is he dry? Right. If he's getting and he's not, if he's driving the lane and he's not getting the ball knocked away,
right,
or he's getting that floater right around where it needs to be, I'll feel good about him for the rest of the game.
Stop looking for the fouls because you're not getting a call, and let's go to the floater. That's what he should be doing today.
I agree. I think that I do feel like there's times where in desperation he's just driving not to score but to draw the foul.
He looks for the bailout.
And he shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
All right, John, Phillies. Bryce Harper's back.
Let's
Congratulations.
Go. First home run.
I'll say this. Major League Baseball is always better when Bryce Harper
is
around. There's certain stars in the league, certain players in the league that when they're out for whatever reason, I think it hurts the league. And
right.
Bryce is one of those guys. Major League Baseball is more fun. It's more exciting when you have guys like a Bryce Harper or an Ohtani with these different personalities and different things. So it's good to see Bryce back, and hopefully he stays healthy through the rest of the year. And I'm going to like to see how this team can turn it around. But let's get your early thoughts.
Yep.
It's been a rough start to the year. They made a little bit of a run to get back up to 500. And now they're kind of in another one of those stumbling and fumbling type of stretches.
Yeah. And I say
has not been good.
Pitching has not been good. And I say it all the time that baseball is the biggest roller coaster, right? You can lose 4 or 5 games in a row. It's not the end of the season, and it's okay. This team is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. The one thing that just came out this week that I'm not excited about a little bit, and Falter looked pretty good yesterday. I'm not going to bash him for it, but we're taking Strom and moving him to the bullpen. I know Ranger's on his way back.
That's going to be a big help.
I think, yeah, that's going to be a big help. But I think I would rather see Strom be that 5th starter right now because he's been as consistent as a pitcher as we had this year so far. And I think moving him to the bullpen is just going to not. I don't see a spot for him. Where is he really going to fit in the bullpen spot? Is he going to be just a long reliever when you're getting smacked? Like I think he's just too good of a pitcher for that kind of role.
Yeah, he might be looking at
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be one of those spot start, long relief guys for at least for a while.
And he's too good of a pitcher for that.
So what are you guys doing with Aaron Nola here? What's the deal? Are we looking at the organization bringing him back?
You better.
You think?
Yeah, you better. Aaron Nola is a top pitcher in this league. All right. He has great stuff. He's always been consistent. He's in the top 5 in innings. He's in the top 5 in strikeouts year after year after year. His record doesn't display how good of a pitcher this guy is. Listen, if you're gonna let a guy who's in the top 5 innings pitch for you and top 5 strikeouts, this never hurt. You can always count on him to take the game ball every 5 days.
He's a big game
You're going to just
loser.
let this guy walk?
He's a big game loser. Choke artist in big games.
Well, I'll give you a couple games that he wasn't. Didn't he give us the clinching game in Houston where we threw an absolute gem against the World Series team to clinch us into the playoffs when it didn't look like we were going to?
How do you look against Houston in the playoffs?
It didn't look good. None of them did. I mean, none of them did.
No, I think it's really big for the Phillies to get Ranger back.
Yeah.
I'm not a Nola guy. I think Nola is a really good number 2. And I mean, you have Wheeler, who Wheeler hasn't been great either.
No.
He's been good, but I mean, the game against Boston the other day didn't look great. I don't love the pitching staff. I don't understand why this organization can't build a pitching staff.
We spend the money on it.
They try.
Yeah.
But
you just get the wrong pieces.
Whoever is the talent evaluator as far as the Phillies pitching staff goes, it just doesn't seem like they pull the right button. They push the right buttons every year.
Yeah.
And I know, I'll give you this about Nola. And this is any sport, and we talked about this all the time, right? What's your best ability?
Right.
Availability.
100%.
Dude is an innings eater.
Yep.
He grinds, and I appreciate that. I don't look at him as an ace. Okay, I think strikeout numbers are what they are.
Yep.
That's not a really big tell for me. Record's kind of whatever too, because you don't know what kind of offense is in front of it. We watched DeGrom a couple years ago, literally have an ERA under 2, and I think
500 record.
I think he was under that.
Yeah.
He was
right.
He was like 4-8.
And it's not even that. It's the offense doesn't show up for Nola most of the time, but look at how many blown saves this team has when Nola starts. It's outrageous. The bullpen blows more saves opportunities and wins for Nola than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's been the MO for this organization for a while. Again, the back end of the bullpen. So let's do just like a quick evaluation of where they're at right now. Trey Turner. Listen, and by the way, I am in no way trying to instigate Trey is an underachiever.
Okay.
Because I think in terms of the contract he got and what you're going to get it's going to be paid back in spades.
Correct.
But early returns have been subpar. So the reason I bring it up, how frustrating is it to see the explosion in the World Baseball Classic?
There it was, yeah.
which are meaningful games. So we're not talking about like spring training.
No.
Stroking. He played very meaningful games to come back now. And I think he's at 2 home runs at this point?
Correct.
He had more, I think,
he had
in one
7,
game.
I think. Yeah, I think he had 7 in the
As
World
a fan,
Series.
how frustrating is that to see?
It's frustrating, but I'm not overly concerned or worried about it. I always wish that players who play in the Olympics or in the World Baseball Classics or the World Cup or anything like that would perform at that standard for my team that I root for also. But I understand it. He went off in the Baseball World Classics. You said it in basketball. That can't be sustainable. All right, especially in a 182 game baseball season.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to hit at that clip. So he's going through a struggle. Trey Turner, when it's all said and done, he'll be over 280.
Oh, yeah.
All right, he'll be over 280.
I'd venture to say he'll be closer to 300.
Correct. Yeah, he'll have his 25 homers and his 30 steals. He'll be there. I'm not too worried about Trey. The guy that worries me right now is Schwartz. Right at your leadoff spot.
When do we pull
batting 190? I mean, that's just.
Yeah, you can't have that.
You can't have that. And he doesn't walk. He doesn't work pitches. He doesn't work the count. He's literally an all or nothing guy. He's your prototypical home run or strikeout guy. I just don't think that you can sustain that and make a playoff run. The only reason we did make a run last year is because everyone got hot, including him.
I think they missed Reese in the lineup.
You missed Reese a lot.
That's evident. I am not a Reese Hoskins guy by any means.
I love Reese.
I'm not a big guy, but I think in terms of the leadership and the threat of the long ball being in the lineup, I think it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Nobody in the league, I think, works pitchers better than Reese Hoskins. He may have the best eye in baseball. The dude sees 6 pitches every single at bat.
I don't know about that, but there's a definitive difference in what you're seeing without him in the lineup. But I would be a little bit concerned about Schwarber because the thing with the leadoff spot, if you have to be stroking long balls at a high clip, or you need to be getting on base.
You need to be getting on base.
How many home runs is he at this point?
1, 2? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I'm curious. Actually, to see what he is.
It can't be much because, like I said, he's only batting at 190.
So how long until we have to pull him off of that leadoff spot until he starts stroking?
I don't know. And the problem is, where do you go with it? Like, who takes that leadoff spot? Is it going to be Marsh? Do you trust Marsh at the leadoff spot? Stott? Do you trust Stott at the leadoff spot? I don't know. I don't want to see Turner there. I don't want to see Trey Turner at the leadoff spot.
He's got 7 homers.
He has that.
He's hitting 176.
Is it that low?
You can't hit that.
It's just.
That's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
Not good at all.
I mean, what's he have? 10 hits, 7 of them are homers. It's bad.
Let's see. He's got 22 hits.
And 7 of them are home runs. That's a third of his hits.
22 hits out of 125 at bats. That's not good.
No. And the problem, like I said, the problem with this team is you don't really have a leadoff guy that you could trust.
I mean, do you maybe throw Trey in there? Bohm?
Why? No, Bohm can't lead off. I just don't want my best hitter. I think Trey Turner is my best all-around hitter.
Like you say that you wouldn't want Bohm in that spot, but
right.
In fairness, Kyle Schwarber is not your prototypical leadoff hitter either.
No.
So maybe just to change up the juju, like if you're hell bent on having Trey Turner and he should be in a more productive run scoring or run production part of the lineup. I mean, maybe like you said, maybe Stott. I mean, who's out of those guys? Who's your most reliable hitter right now. Maybe Stott.
I think Stott is your next guy up. I think he'll get the chance to be the leadoff hitter. I'm hoping that there's a trade down the pipeline, right? I do think we're going to need somebody else to fill that void of losing Reese. We haven't really had that yet. And Sosa's been playing great, but you're not winning anything with Sosa playing 160 games. I love him as a utility guy. I just can't have him.
Everybody knows I'm a big Edmundo Sosa guy. I thought
I love him.
Got him a steal, and I think you're right. He's a great utility guy. He could fill in a lot of different spots.
Right.
He can get you a long ball every now and then at key moments. But he's not a long-term solution by any means. They definitely need to figure out what they're going to do throughout this year. I mean, for all we know, Reese may not be ready to start the year next year.
Correct. Yeah, you don't know how that's going to recover. Plus, I don't think Reese is signed next year, if I'm mistaken.
I would venture to bet they'll bring him back, though.
I would hope so. You just don't know how it plays out, right? Especially with if you do make a trade, who is that piece you're bringing in? Right? To me, it has to be a first baseman or a third baseman.
Well, I think right now let's try to right the ship, and then we'll see where we're at around the trade deadline. And I think that's where they'll determine, is it worth bringing somebody in to fill that void and giving up an asset?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So they just have to figure. And I think Justin's on here too. He says the same thing. Swap Stott and Schwarber. Can't have a 170 hitter in the leadoff spot. I mean, that's 100%.
That's 100% correct. It's just do you trust Stott against lefties? I don't know yet.
Joseph, nobody said that you have an all-star every position. Reese Hoskins isn't an all-star every year.
No.
But you need a guy who could come in on a day-to-day basis, a regular everyday starter, and fill that position. As a team at the level of the Philadelphia Phillies and where this team should be at,
the money that they spent,
they are not in a position to just throw guys in the lineup and try to see who it's going to be. If you have an opportunity to go out and get somebody to fill that position, particularly because Reese, well, I don't know if he's signed or not through next year, but
correct.
Whether he is or he isn't, even if he is, he's not guaranteed to be healthy next year. You have to. This is what good teams do, man.
You gotta go get.
I mean, maybe it's been a while since you guys have been on this level. I'm gonna start throwing that out there. As a Cardinals fan, I can tell you.
There you go.
This is what you do when guys get knocked out of the lineup, and you're gonna miss an entire year and possibly the beginning of next year. You go and fill that position.
Right.
And when you're a team that came off of a National League title, who is supposed to be a contender to do the same again. You just, there's too much to lose and too much of a missed opportunity to bank on hoping a young guy can fill that void. There's nobody in the Phillies organization right now who you could say, okay, we're good.
Right.
Because this kid, we could bring this kid up and he can produce, or we could pull this person off the bench because they have the experience. I watch Edmundo Sosa all the time as a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Great player.
He is a role player.
Yeah. And we did. Joseph, I thought we had the guy, but we did not.
I watched Edmundo Sosa for the last 3 years before you guys got him. I could tell you he's not an everyday player.
It's not.
He cannot. And there's times where we put him in the lineup in desperation, and you'll get a solid week out of him, and then he doesn't hit.
Right.
The one thing you get is defense from him. There's no doubt about it. But
at third base, he's looked kind of bad lately.
And you could disagree with me on it, but I have deep knowledge of Edmundo Sosa and his career because I watched him from the day he came up to the major leagues. Believe me, Edmundo Sosa is not the answer for a National League championship competing team.
Yeah, a World Series team does not have this guy as a starting third baseman. It's just
this is the guy that you have. That's your ultimate utility guy because that's part of Major League Baseball now. In roster construction is you have these 1 or 2 or 3 guys that you could fill in any position, and you can place them in the lineup.
And we have them, right? You have a Harrison,
right,
who is a utility knife. You have Sosa, who's a utility knife, right? So we have those guys. They're just not being used that way. Sosa is being used as an everyday guy, and it's setting them up to fail because you're right. He's not consistent enough to be an everyday guy right now.
So, I mean, it just sounds to me like we saw him in a small clip and we think that he could be the guy now.
Right, because he's hot right now.
I have watched this man his entire career. I've seen him go through these stretches. The year before we traded him, you guys got him last year from us,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We had him the year before. Paul DeJong was awful.
Correct.
And he came in and he played about a month and a half when Paul DeJong was terrible. And he had a 2 or 3 week stretch where you were like, man, this guy might steal his job.
Yeah.
Did not last. He's a utility guy. Utility guys are not long-term answers. And when you're talking about an entire season of missing your first baseman,
right,
that's considered a long-term answer. A short-term answer is we need a month or two to fill in. He's not a long-term answer for a team that's going to compete for a National League championship. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're content with that, with the pitching you have, you need offense in the lineup right now.
And you said it earlier in the rant where if you have it in the pipelines, then maybe you could get away with Sosa going 3 or 4 months to the All-Star break. Do you feel like that guy in the pipeline is ready to come up and maybe step in? We lost that guy too, who I thought was going to be the fix, who the Phillies thought was going to be, and Derek Hall. Right? He's now done for the year. So you lost the 2 guys who you thought were going to be there to help you. It's time to start looking at other options. You have to make a move. I'm not saying it's got to be now, right?
No, between now and the All-Star break.
Correct, yeah.
Or the trade deadline, not even the All-Star break.
Yeah, you have time. You have time. But there is going to be a move that we have to go and get a guy.
I never thought I'd see the day that anybody would be like, oh, Edmundo Sosa is going to be in, more than enough to fill in for Reese.
That's the type of people that are watching now, and he hits a home run, and he makes a great play, and everyone falls in love with the underdog.
I'm just saying.
That's just what it is.
I'm not a Phillies fan, but I have more insight on Edmundo Sosa than just about any Phillies fan because I've watched his entire career.
Right.
He's not going to be your long-term
solution. You see Philly fans, you know him, right? A guy has a great game, he's the next best thing. Like he's a Hall of Famer.
Who was the running back? What was it? Josh Adams?
Yeah, Adams was one.
He was the next.
Then you had the wide receiver.
Fulgham. Travis Fulgham.
Yeah,
he was the next TO.
Yeah, right. Like it just happens all the time in Philadelphia where fans get the underdog, the guy that wasn't drafted, that he's going to save the franchise. It doesn't usually happen that way, guys.
Great piece.
Yeah, great story.
Not the piece to replace Reese. But, Joseph, we're going to jump in. I want to jump in the Flyers talk here.
Yes.
I know Joseph wanted to he actually asked about it earlier. What are your feelings? I think the Flyers are, what, a 6.5% 6.5% chance.
Yep. It's absolutely crazy.
I'll say my theory after you. You know my theory.
The Philadelphia Flyers are just bad. Like it's probably the worst this franchise positionally has ever been. You have nobody that you can build around. All right, absolutely nobody. You have Couturier, Ellis, Atkinson. All 3 of them might never play again. You have Carter Hart, who now everyone wants to trade. Tony DeAngelo just is MIA. No one knows where he is. This franchise is a complete dumpster fire. Like I said, you have nobody to build around. There's nobody on this roster besides Owen Tippett.
I like Cam York's potential, too.
Cam York has a little bit of potential. He's just very small defenseman.
I do like, and I like Provy.
I've seen Provy for years now.
I know, but like, it's weird because like we're talking about guys like Provy and guys like Hart, right?
Yeah.
I do think those guys, and I'm not even including TK, who I feel like he's been a disappointment. But
he has.
You know, I look at like guys like Provy and Hart, and I do think that they could have been the cornerstone futures.
Right.
But the organization was built so poorly around them to where you're almost getting to the point where you're going to start wasting prime years.
I'm not going to say that I'm not going to blame the organization.
I'm not ready to move on from Hart, by the way. I think that's silly.
I'm the same way. But you literally had your top 3 guys probably having career-ending injuries who look like they're never going to play. I don't know what franchise survives that. Like, those 3 guys make everyone better on your team. You took that out, and now you just see the players that we have on this roster for what they really are. They're just talentless. Like that, it comes down to that. They're just talentless. Like TK's great, but he's a scrappy guy. He's not a sniper. He's not going to get you 40. Like
there's nothing.
there's nothing outstanding about him.
No. He's a very good player.
Tomorrow is literally the second biggest moment in this franchise history if we land this lottery pick. Besides getting Lindros.
Well, if they don't, then it'll be the following year because they're going to stink again.
You're right. Right? If you land this pick, you're a contender. Immediately. Conor Bedard is that good. I believe he's played in like 35 games and had something like 73 goals. He's that transcendent of a player. Anyone who gets him, the franchise is changing. That's the only way the Flyers are going to get good. Over the next 7 years, I just don't. Man, it's going to be a long grind.
Yeah, the Flyers are going to have to do it through the drafts.
Yeah.
0% chance the Flyers get the first overall pick.
Not even the 6.5?
The Chicago Blackhawks, an original NHL team who traded Patrick Kane,
who's desperate,
who Jonathan Taves just retired. And when the Blackhawks are a team that is a success in this league, an original team, when they are good,
the league's
the
better.
NHL is better.
Yep.
There's 0% chance that anybody other than the Chicago Blackhawks get, and this is, I told John this before we went on there, my theory, there's 0% chance anybody gets that first overall pick other than Chicago. So I'm going to be excited to see what happens.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too. I don't believe in the, and this is my own little theory.
Yeah.
Like, I just think after seeing like Cleveland getting first round picks in the NBA,
right?
I don't know how much I believe in legitimacy of the randomness of these things.
Let me ask you a question.
It's too convenient that these either it's a star player going to a team in those cases and they need to put talent around him quick.
Right.
Or on the other side, when it's historically good teams that the league is better when they're good and they don't have an identity, I just feel like they make it convenient for them to get an identity.
Find it, yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen here, and it's going to be the Blackhawks. But I hope I'm wrong because he's right about everything else he said.
If Arizona or Anaheim end up winning this lottery, like they're favorites to,
no chance.
Does that do anything for the NHL to put the next big thing, arguably, in those cities, in those franchises?
You could make an argument for Anaheim just because it's an LA area.
And they've been there, yeah.
They've been there. They got movies about them,
right.
all this and that. Maybe. Although they're kind of irrelevant. I don't know.
They're very irrelevant.
No. I would say no. I think there's a high – I mean, I think that if it's not Chicago, we're looking at a pretty good opportunity here.
Right.
Again, I don't care what they say about the lottery. I don't believe in the legitimacy of all that. It's just far too convenient of how they do things. So,
right.
No.
You think there's no chance he ends up in Arizona?
0%. Like a legit 0% chance he ends up in Arizona. Could I see him in Anaheim?
Montreal?
I mean, that's like an original. The
right.
Canadians, oh my God. Can you imagine if he goes to Montreal? The league would be throwing themselves a party.
That's what I mean. You're right. So there are other teams that you think it could benefit. You're just thinking Chicago's the it.
Or, I mean, Montreal's an interesting name. I think it's Chicago, personally. Okay. I feel like they have players as far as some of the Canadian teams that are, especially when you look at Toronto, when you talk about Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
They have players to market in Canada.
Yeah, they do.
But when you're talking about a city like Chicago that needs a new identity, that just lost two-star players. I mean, one retiring.
Right.
Kind of young, too, by the way. And Jonathan Taves.
Okay.
And then trading Patrick Kane, who's kind of on the downside anyway.
Yeah, they've been the franchise for 10 years.
That's an organization, an original organization that needs an identity.
Yeah.
I just don't see any way. Maybe Montreal sneaks in, but maybe it's Chicago. I think Chicago. I would bet my house on Chicago getting the number one overall.
I hate that it's people think that way, but I kind of have to agree with you. Man, I just look at this kid and I just everything about him says Wayne Gretzky. It's absolutely crazy,
and that's part of the reason why I feel the way that I do. Then, because
right?
if he is that caliber, if he is a guy who could be on the level of a Wayne Gretzky, Sidney Crosby, Alexander Ovechkin, guys who not only changed organizations but changed
the league. Yeah,
there's no chance he's going to go to Arizona, where that team, I don't even know how long that team's going to stay there.
Right, and I guess that was my next point is if we saw it with Pittsburgh, right? Yeah. Pittsburgh was going to be bankrupt. They were going to sell and move the franchise. They hit the lottery and they got Sid, and that was it. They were a made team. We know the history. They won all the cups. Then they got lucky and got Malkin. Then they got another first number one and got Fleury. Like we know the history there. Do you think that can happen to any franchise, including Arizona? Can Arizona get that lucky with this kid? No. Okay.
No. And the difference too, when you look at Pittsburgh, they're not an original team, but there's a lot of history now with Pittsburgh too. So
yeah,
I hate to say it, I when you're talking about original teams and teams that are game changers as far as the identity of the league, like the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Washington Capitals, Detroit Red Wings is an original
they're
team.
Another one, yeah.
It's it's just a whole different world. So yeah. We'll see what happens. But one thing I want with them, John, I need a goal scorer on this team.
Correct.
A guy
you need a real sniper.
I need a guy who can get me 35 to 45.
When's the last time we had a guy that got us 40? Like, honestly, what Hartnell? And you're going to call him a sniper, I guess. But
did he have a 40-goal season?
I think so. The year that they had Jágr, and right, he had 40 with Briere.
Jágr might have had 40 goals that year. He was pretty great.
He was.
Which is terrible, by the way. We had like a 46-year-old Jágr as our 40-goal scorer.
Who was the last guy that got 40 goals on this team? I
mean, you might be going back to Lindros and Forsberg,
right. That's what I mean.
And those kind
Leclerc,
of days.
Yeah.
I don't think Primo ever did, but
no,
it's rough. It's
been a long time since this franchise has had a real goal scorer, and in my opinion, we have one of the best passers, assist guys in Claude Giroux forever, and we never gave him anything.
No.
We never gave that guy anything to work with.
No, I say this all the time, John. One of the most underappreciated professional athletes in the history of Philadelphia sports is Claude Giroux.
Yes, he is.
Because people said, you have the face of the franchise. He needs to be a 34-goal scorer, 35, 40-goal scorer. Yeah. He didn't need to, and that's not who he was. It's like when we drafted Andre Iguodala, everybody's like, he needs to be the number 2 next to Iverson. It's like, that's not who he is. He's a 15-point scorer on a really great team.
Yep.
And lockdown best defender on the court. Giroux, the way that he handled pucks, he could score.
Best face-off guy maybe ever.
Face-off guy, way he handled pucks, the way he set his teammates up.
Right. That was him.
That's elite qualities in somebody.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he ever got a shot. They never really put the goal scorers around him. And it's a shame because his era is going to be looked down on because of guys like Lindros and stuff being the face of the franchise before. But I'll tell you what, that guy was a loser too. All day, every day, when I talk about character and production, and I'm not just talking about goals, everything else, I take Claude Giroux 100 times over. I'm not a Lindros guy. So I'm
a huge Lindros guy. He's probably the guy who got me into hockey as big as I am.
Same, me too.
I mean, but I agree with you. I think Claude Giroux is going to get a very bad rap that he does not deserve.
Claude Giroux, Ryan Howard, Donovan McNabb.
There you go.
That's your 3 most underappreciated professional athletes in this city.
I'm with you.
So,
yep.
Anything else for the good of the cause, Sean?
No, I just, everyone Monday night, 8 o'clock, ESPN, the draft. Could be a big moment for the Flyers. Let's hope the balls land our way. Please.
Give Torts something to work with here,
Please.
guys. Great show today, guys. Thank you so much for your comments. I'll just drop these last couple comments up here. What franchise is in a worse spot now? Arizona Coyotes or the Oakland? Oakland's a dumpster fire.
Well, no, Oakland looks like they just got a deal with Vegas, so they're looking pretty promising right now.
Yeah, but in the meantime, they're rough.
Yeah, it's hard.
Jeff Carter. Joseph says Carter was our last 40-goal scorer. That makes sense.
Oh,
that
okay.
Sounds about right.
All right, yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's a long time, though.
All right. Thank you, Don. Thank you to everybody. Joseph. A lot of people jumping in comments in here. We appreciate you guys. And make sure, if you guys are in Ocean City on Sundays, whether it's myself every other week or John's going to have other co-hosts in here floating through, come by and see us, 1028 between 11th and 10th Street on the Ocean City Boardwalk. You come, you keep an eye on us. You got a great pizza place next door, too. If you're hungry, grab a slice from Three Brothers and then sit over here, maybe hop in one of the seats. Come on, and we can talk about anything you guys, whether it's on tap or it's not on tap. We'll make it on tap for you.
Yep.
Come down. You can bring your kids. Kids can hop on and have a conversation. So it's a very family-friendly program we do here. So we appreciate you. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys are like, subscribe, following all the social media platforms. Share it out. Tell your friends. And 10-9-8, man. Let's try to get a freaking win tonight.
Let's steal another game at home.
Let's go Sixers. Try to get a game at home here. Let's go Phillies. Try to do something.
Just win.
Just win a couple games. And let's go Flyers. So for myself, for John Coyle, for everybody here at A2D Radio, Ralph Delavecchio on the back end getting us set up and prepared and ready to go. We appreciate you. We love you guys. John, stop that, John. We'll have I'm not getting roped into extending this show, John.
Let's go.
We'll save this one. But take care and come down to All Campus. Make sure you guys are subscribing to A2D, and these guys are going to get you 20% off. All Campus, awesome hats. Get the exclusives. Myself, John. We'll see you later. Go Sixers.
Take care, guys.